covering the High Plains with news, weather, and information. From TV 23 Studios in Sublette, this is High Plains Today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the special edition of High Plains Today. You know what? This is a treat today. I am joined in studio by the one, the only, not an imitation. He is Mark Hutton. He is the Republican candidate for the governor of Kansas. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by today.
Absolutely. It's
welcome
a great
to
pleasure
Southwest
to be here.
Kansas.
Yeah, thank you. We've been out here a lot. So,
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, now tell me a little bit about Mark Hutton.
Well, I'm born and raised in Wichita, Kansas. Apart from 3 years up in Manhattan, finishing an engineering degree, and a year in Garden City working on a project right out of college. I'm a Wichita boy. Grew up in South Wichita. My dad worked for Cessna. My mom was an elementary education school teacher. So,
And you have ties to Garden City, Western Kansas.
Yes,
don't
we
you?
do. Yeah, Mary and I spent a year out here in 1977 working on a project. One of my first job with the company that I spent 15 years with before I started my company. So It was a great experience. Met some wonderful friends that are still here today.
And your construction company.
We are.
You have what, 200 plus employees?
250 employees. We started Hutton Construction 25 years ago. I tell the story, I walked out of a pretty good paying job, gave myself a 50% haircut on a salary and bought an old truck and an old desk, and we started Hutton Construction. Today it employs 250 people. We operate throughout the central United States, building hospitals, churches, schools, and we have a division that does fertilizer plants and petrochemical and fun stuff like that too.
Well, look at you. You got a lot going on.
We do, but 7 years ago, my oldest son walked in my office. He was 29 years old and announced he was ready to run the place. And so I said,
he didn't ask. He told you.
He basically did, yeah. But I decided at that time I was going to mentor him. Instead of him looking over my shoulder, I'll look over his. And that went very well. He did a great job, and it allowed me to kind of step back from the company and do some crazy things like run for the House of Representatives.
You did that. And,
I did that.
And you served, what, 4 years?
4 years, from 2013 through 2016. And it was a great experience. I tell people I got a really good look under the hood, so I know what I'm getting into with this. But I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of our state politics.
Okay, so let's talk about your little stint in Topeka.
Yeah.
For 4 years. Now, you consider yourself maybe a conservative?
I
Republican?
am a common sense conservative.
Okay,
yes.
All right. But while you were up there, you kind of rocked the boat a little bit on Governor Brownback's tax cuts, right?
I did, just on portions of it.
Right.
I ran in the election was in 2012 for my 2013 office, and I ran in total support of the 2012 tax plan that was put into place, thinking that was on the right path. When I got to Topeka, I was given some information on a specific part of that, which was, a lot of people called it the LLC loophole. I called it the business pass-through exemption. And it just, as I got the data and I did the math, I figured out we had a math problem, because we were not getting the results from that $250 million that was being invested in that every year. I didn't see that we were getting the results from that. And as I got into the data, it just became very apparent that we were never going to see it because of the dilution factor and a lot of other issues. And I can go into numbers all you want, but the bottom line is I challenged that and went to the governor and said, I think we can do better with this. In 2015, we put an alternate kind of plan in front of them, and they chose not to adopt it. And unfortunately, I think it led to an even more severe tax increase than we would have needed if we would have fixed it in 2015.
All right, so let's talk about that. I mean, the budget and funding education, public education in the state of Kansas, those are two very, very large elephants in the room. Are they not?
They are.
All right, so where do you see us going with the tax cuts that came last year that are carrying into this year and those types of things in Topeka?
Yeah, well, the tax increase this year is still kind of up in the air as to what it's going to produce. because it's very complex with the tax package that was passed, and then the federal plan came along, and the other day the Department of Revenue put out a memo that says we don't have any idea what it's going to mean. We can't even project what kind of revenue we're going to have because it's so complex. So the state's kind of in limbo. They're trying to figure out just how much money they have to work with and to pass this next budget. But look, Kansans demand excellence in education, and until we dig into our budgets, which frankly have not been done in this state by the governor for many years, we really don't know if we're spending the right amount of money to get the right return on investment. Because I'm a businessman. It's about where you put money into, you expect a return on. And we haven't done that analysis. And people say, what's the first thing you're going to do? We're going to peel all the layers of the budget back. We're going to look at every aspect of our state budget compared to a return on investment. And then we're going to collaborate with the legislature on a year-round basis, educating them on how we're spending money and getting their input on how we're going to prioritize the dollars that we have to spend. Because that's really the only way we're going to start solving the question of, are we adequately funding our state services, including K through 12?
Okay. All right. We're going to take a quick break. Why don't you hold that thought? Because
You
when
betcha.
I come back, now we've covered quite a bit already, but when we come back, the biggest question, the biggest elephant in this room is, I want to know why you are running for this job to be the head of Kansas. Okay?
All right.
All right. So stay right there. Mr. Hutton and I will be back right after this.
You're watching High Plains Today on TV 23 with host Chris Jewell. TV 23's internet service and 4G live streaming provided by United Wireless. Coverage you deserve. Service you expect. United Wireless.
Hi, I'm Chris Jewell, host of High Plains Today, a 30-minute news and information program that airs at noon weekdays right here on TV 23. Hey, do you think you have an idea for something that would make a great segment? Somebody that would make a great interview? What about a community event that needs highlighting? Let us know here at the station. Email us news@kdgltv.com. And welcome back to the special edition of High Plains Today. Joined today by Mr. Mark Hutton. He is a Republican candidate for the governor of Kansas. Now, we've talked a little bit about education and the tax cuts and when you were in Topeka and you grew up in Wichita, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. All right, now here's another big question, though, is why in the world do you want to be governor of Kansas?
Well, I tell people that I just can't stand it any longer. Is part of it. I was, I served 4 years.
Yes.
Stepped away, thinking I was going to go kind of some other directions. But as I watched the legislative process, from a distance, but had the lens of having been there, I just decided that maybe Kansas needed somebody that was offering a different approach to leadership in this state. One that was much more collaborative.
What is that difference in leadership then?
Well, number one is I'm a businessman first. I'm really not a politician. I tolerate politics to get things done. And that was my record in Topeka. I worked with bipartisan groups to pass a bill on the autism mandate. I worked with bipartisan support on fixing workers' compensation and unemployment insurance payments, saved about $1 billion together that kept it in the pockets of businesses instead of going to trust funds in Washington, D.C. or to insurance companies. And I had I just was about good policy ahead of politics.
All right. So good policy ahead of politics.
Right.
Let me jump in here and ask you. Now, current and previous administrations have been kind of, come across as not being as transparent as people would like.
Right.
How do you change that?
Well, the governor's he doesn't have to have anybody's permission to put daylight on anything. And I think that's really I think that's a job that the governor needs to tackle. I see my job is to helping people understand how their tax dollars are being spent and getting their input on whether they're happy with that or not. I'm running to be the CEO of Kansas.
All right.
And so, go ahead.
Mr. CEO.
Yep.
Then, now, a lot of candidates in this race are looking at things and they go, Kansas, we have a spending problem. Do we have a spending problem?
Well, I think we do have a spending problem, but it's probably not like you think. Like any business, we have to constantly be evaluating how we're spending our money and if it's generating a return on that investment. And I think government needs to do the same thing. We could very well be overspending in one area and underspending in other areas. And I think we have to do a deep dive, cut into to this state budget and really look at what are we benefiting from the dollars we're spending, and look at how we reallocate our money. We may have some programs that just frankly need to go away, and others that need to do better, need more funds so we can do better. Government's really good at growing. It's really bad at shrinking. And it's because everybody loves starting new programs, but they forget to kill the old ones. We want to go down and go underneath and take a look at, some of these programs that might have been great ideas 20 years ago, but maybe today there's a better way to do it. And we need to look at that.
All right. So now, does that mean that, in the past, it's like, okay, the House and the Senate are both, going like this with their members and also with the governor. Mm-hmm. So does that mean that, you would be willing to work with both houses and bring those leaders in and say, all right, here's what we got to do?
Absolutely. Look, it begins with a collaborative attitude and that we haven't had. Right now, the way the budget's prepared in this state is the governor prepares it in secret. No business would ever run their business the way we try to run this state, where the governor creates this secret sauce budget. He puts it in front of the legislature on the third day of session, and they get set a limited amount of time to go through a $14 billion budget. There's no way they can really get their arms around that. And so, as governor, I'm going to work year-round with the legislature on educating them, answering their questions. So on day one, when they walk into the legislative session, they will have had input into what this budget is. It's not going to be a big secret as to what it is, and they'll be ready and educated on the debate. And I think that nothing but good can come out of that.
All right, so what do you think some of the big things in the budget are? Now, we touched on a little bit on education.
Right.
And, with the budget and what you were saying about education, those two things pretty much go hand in hand.
Right.
Because like you said, nobody has really put pencil to paper and said, all right, here's what we can do, here's what we need to do, et cetera.
Right.
But let's talk about, we look at KDOT. The Bank of KDOT has been, pretty much run dry. And Medicaid expansion is a big thing. I mean, where do you stand on KDOT and the Medicaid expansion?
Well, I'd start with KDOT. The T-Works program has basically been gutted. I say toss it out, start over. But right now the current T-Works has three avenues of revenue. It's the federal highway funds that are dedicated to highways, fuel taxes that are dedicated to roads, and then there was a sales tax component, and that's where the funny stuff took place. I say we go back, we create a T-Works program that's based on the two certain revenue sources of fuel taxes and federal funds, and we develop a plan that takes care of our roads first and then looks at safety enhancements first around the state, and we make do with that until we can get our financial house in order, and then we start looking at what we can add back into KDOT for bigger network improvements and the like. So I think we have to start all over there, and we have to be realistic. Take care of what we have first, because if you're not taking care of your truck today, you're walking tomorrow. Every businessman knows that. The other thing is on Medicaid expansion. I walked in 2013 supporting Medicaid expansion with three caveats. The first one is there has to be a work component. If you're an able-bodied person, Kansas values says that you ought to be working or contributing or improving yourself through education or something like that. I think there has to be a copay element to it. The federally qualified healthcare clinics have a good business model where everybody has to pay something, because what you don't invest in, you don't value. And doctors will tell you widely that co-pays help that patient invest in their health care. The third element is there has to be a safety valve. It cannot cost this state its future livelihood if the federal government pulls out. And so if the federal government cuts funds to that program, then the system has to automatically ratchet back to match those funds, so that we don't put our state on the hook for hundreds of millions of dollars of financial liability that on down the road could easily come to bear. So that was my position in 2013, and it remains that way. I think Kansas has a unique opportunity, especially with President Trump coming in, to develop a unique Kansas approach to how we take care of these people. We have a very robust federally qualified healthcare clinic network in Kansas that I believe could be a really good nucleus to start taking care of these people. Instead of them walking into a hospital emergency room, they get channeled over to these qualified healthcare clinics where they can be taken care of much more effectively and cost efficiently.
Okay. Mark, thanks. Stay right there. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with some more with Mr. Mark Hutton. Hi, Chris Jewell, host of High Plains Today, a 30-minute news and information program that airs weekdays at noon right here on TV 23. We talk about news, we talk about sports, we talk about weather, we're even going to talk entertainment. We'll have live guests right here on set with me. So, every day at noon, tune in, High Plains Today. We'll see you then.
Weekdays here on TV 23.
And we're back on this special edition of High Plains Today. He is Mark Hutton, candidate for governor. He's a Republican, by the way.
Yes.
But there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Now, we've talked about a lot of stuff.
Yes.
But one thing we really haven't talked about is, with all this that you want to get done for Kansas and everything, economic development. Where are we at on economic development?
Well, we have a lot of work to do to rebuild our economic engine in Kansas, because I believe for too long we had an economic policy that centered around one thing, and that was if we cut taxes enough, then companies would come streaking across the border and to set up business here. Well, that didn't happen. Didn't happen for a lot of different reasons. But the bottom line is that then we went elephant hunting. We had a Commerce Department, I believe, that was just out looking for the big kills that really didn't fit Kansas. We have economic areas in Kansas that we need to be leveraging. In Wichita, it's the composites industry that's born out of the aviation. In Manhattan, in Bath, in Kansas City, we have logistics and tech ed, and we have KU Cancer Center. We have centers of excellence that we need to be leveraging in Kansas. In rural Kansas, we have ag. It's 42% of our economy, and I believe it's been neglected as a potential engine. Right now, we're doing a great job at growing stuff. I think we need to look at vertical integration in our ag industry, and I believe the state government can play an important role in that. Instead of growing corn, we need to do more with it. Instead of, we need to get industrial hemp approved and moving into our network. Because somebody said, you can grow hemp on asphalt if you want, But hemp has got tremendous vertical integration possibilities. Cotton, we're starting to see more and more cotton. Alternative crops are, I think, a real important avenue that our state needs to get involved with. I was out in northwest Kansas the other day. They have corn on the ground everywhere out there. And I asked a guy, I said, what happened to selling all this corn to the world markets? And he said, we taught them how to grow corn. They're not buying our corn now because they're growing their own, and we sold them the technology and everything to do that. So we have to adjust to that and change the business model. I was at a dairy the other day. The guy's got 2 daughters coming back from K-State. He doesn't have any place for them, so he's looking at maybe starting an operation that makes cheese. That's vertical integration, and it'll hire his 2 daughters. He'll put to work for that, but it'll also probably add other jobs, which gets to the other challenge of our economic development is workforce development. We have to start sooner developing our workforce, but more importantly, we have to stop losing what we have. We have way too many people, especially our young men and women that are leaving our state after we've spent millions of dollars educating them. We have to do more to keep them here.
You sound like a businessman running to run the state of Kansas.
I am.
All right. Give me your spiel.
Well, look, I'm running for. I believe Kansas needs a CEO, and I'm the only person in this race that has 25 years of business experience. I started with nothing. I have what I call the 3 a.m. moments, and anybody who's been an independent businessman nods their head when I say that because they understand what that means. I want to couple that with the 4 years of legislative experience that I've had that I believe brings a unique skill sets together that can move Kansas in the right direction. And that's why I'm running for governor. I want to be the CEO of Kansas. I know what I'm getting into, and I believe we can lead our way out of this.
You're the only one that has any business experience, aren't you? That's running?
That's left in the business.
That's left. Yeah, of the 5 left.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
All right. You got a big job ahead of you, mister.
We do. There's days when I wonder what I'm getting myself into, but, if not me, who? I woke up one day and I looked around and said, look, the blessings that I have in my life came because the communities of Kansas trusted Hutton Construction to build their hospitals, churches, schools, and I want to give back. Right. That's why I'm doing this. So, I sat across board tables with these people, and we made great friends, and we want to give back to them.
All right. Mark, thanks for coming by today.
Absolutely. It's
you
a
get
pleasure.
Back out here. Come see us again.
We absolutely
Keep us
will.
updated and see what's going on.
Try keeping me away.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
You bet.
And thanks for joining us on this special edition of High Plains Today.
Keep up to date with the latest information from TV 23 on our Facebook page, KDGL TV.